My name is Louis Bachalver. I'm a student at Liberty University. This is my informative speech for my Communication 101 course. Today I have some volunteers that are going to witness my speech here. I have Janet, I have Leilani, and I have Katrina. Currently, I'm actually the corporate payroll supervisor for Aaron's Inc. We process payroll for about 12,000 employees. In order to qualify for a position in my field, it's probably good to have a degree in business or accounting. If you don't have one of those degrees, which I'm currently working for in business, you can get by having a certified payroll professional certification through the American Payroll Association. It's good for 5 years, and it's a lot like if any accountant was to get a CPA certification. In my field, the pay ranges based on experience, size of the company, and education could range anywhere from $55,000 to $75,000 per year. Payroll is an important piece to business owners that want to pay their employees because we do it accurately right the first time, and we allow them to stay in compliance with taxes as well as keep the employees receiving the paychecks in compliance. Without paychecks, people wouldn't be able to provide for their families, buy groceries, even put some to donate some money at the plate at church on Sundays. Behind me, you'll see what we have here is what goes into calculating a paycheck if I was to do it manually. Now, with this day and age with technology, you wouldn't need to do this, but a good payroll professional would be able to do this without any machinery in the event that there is no electricity, you don't have access to the internet, things that could prevent you from paying your employees on time. But before I go over the details here, I'd like to go over some terminology that we would use that would correspond to what's here on the board. But first I'd like to share with you that the definitions I'll be giving you were provided to me by the IRS, Internal Revenue Service, at their website, irs.gov. Also the American Payroll Association, which is americanpayroll.org. And my calculations have been confirmed by paycheckcity.com. First thing we would go over terminology is what we have up here where you'll see a TE, which is total earnings. That's your actual wages that you earn. That's your salary, your hourly, your overtime, the basic work that you put in and the money you receive for doing that work. That would be total earnings. The next thing you have here is other compensation. If you work in sales, you may get bonus, you may get commissions and other incentive pay. That would be considered other compensation. Now when you take your earnings and you put it together with your compensation, you come up with total compensation or your gross number, which is the number that we all see that we wish we had, but we don't. That's the number that starts and just disappears as we go. Things that will affect your gross pay are your taxes. You have your FICA, which consists of Social Security and Medicare. Social Security you pay as an employee at a rate of 6.2%, Medicare at a rate of 1.45%. With before you even start, 7.65% of your money is gone to the government for Social Security and Medicare. Then you have your federal income tax. There's a lot of scenarios that affect how much you pay in federal income tax. It goes from your marital status, whether you're married or single, how many exemptions, or some people know as dependents, that you claim, which each one of those reduces your tax liability by $3,900. And then you have your payroll frequency. The most common of your payroll frequencies are weekly at 52 weeks, bi-weekly 26 times per year, semi-monthly 24 checks per year, and monthly, which you get 12 checks per year. Then you have the thing that could affect your pay, which are voluntary deductions. You have pre-tax and you have post-tax deductions. For the purposes of my demonstration, we're going to use some deductions that have tax implications. If you participate in a 401k plan, anything that you contribute is exempt from federal income tax, which means that whatever money I contribute, I reduce the amount of money that's in my gross by whatever percent or $5 amount I contribute to 401k, and that saves me from having to pay that to the government and defer it until I retire. Then you have what's called an IRS Section 125 plan. Some people know as a cafeteria plan. It's not taxable for FICA or for federal. That money comes right off of your gross earnings when you're calculating your taxes. So that's definitely a good thing to participate in. And finally, the amount that we all see in our paychecks at the end of the pay period is our net pay, which is your total compensation minus your taxes minus your voluntary deductions, and you get your net pay. So as you can see here on the board, I've got a basic payroll. The person that received this paychecks is a biweekly employee, has 26 pay periods. They're filing married with 2 exemptions, and they you can see here that they participate in the 401k plan at 3%, and they have their medical, dental, and they do $95 per pay period. Real quick, they work 80 hours at $15 an hour. That would give them a total earnings of $1,200. It's money they've actually earned. They got a bonus of $550, which is other compensation. Those two together would be your total gross, your total compensation. Most people know it as gross. First thing we need to do is take out taxes before we take anything else out of your check. As I stated before, some of your deductions have or reduce your tax liability. So you have taxable FICA, which on our board here we have one thing that is exempt from FICA, and that is our medical and dental. So we can take that $1,750 gross, reduce it by $95, and we're only paying Social Security and Medicare tax on $1,655. So again, a pre-tax medical plan is a smart thing to do on your paycheck. It reduces your liability. And here you can see, after you do the calculations, that amount of money, $126.61, goes into FICA. Now, the one thing that is more complicated than anything, and which is why it's wise to have a payroll professional, is how to calculate your federal tax. You can see here this huge equation down here that would probably just make people go mental when they're trying to calculate that. Now, I've been able to do this by simply using a book that was provided by the IRS called the Circular E. You can get it at their website, theirs.gov, and it tells you exactly how to withhold based on the criteria, which is the pay periods, marital status, and things like that, and then of course your deductions. Real quickly, I have my taxable for Fed. I start off with my gross amount. I deduct my $95 for my medical dental because it's exempt. I deduct my investment in my 401k, and I come down here, and all I'm paying is $1,655, and I've actually already seen an error in my math. But again, these calculations here ring true. So what I do here is I take I've got my taxable federal. Here's my gross amount minus my deductions. I've got $1,655. Multiply that by 26 pay periods. I get my annualized amount. This is one thing to keep in mind, because the more money you make here, the more money you make annually. So if you're a salaried employee and you make $50,000 a year, but you get a $1,000 bonus, you tack that on top of it, it makes it look like you make a whole lot more a year in the eyes of federal taxes when you add it all together. So the more you make, the more they take. Essentially, you go through the equation that's in here, you take out your exemptions, which married into gives me a total of $1,700 exemptions. I get that annual amount. I go to my little chart here in the IRS workbook. It tells me that based off my $33,865, I need to pay $1,785, which seems simple, but then you have to pay 15% of the difference of your $33,865 minus $26,150, according to this chart here on the IRS, which brings it down. You take that minus the $26,000, you multiply that by 15%, that's an additional $1,157.25 to the federal government. Those two added together is $29,42.25. You divide that by your pay periods, and that's your per pay period deduction for federal. As you can see here, I whizzed through it. It's a very complicated equation. If you don't have the right person doing it, that could make an error. You could wind up owing more taxes in a year than you really need to be. In a nutshell, that is the way that you would manually calculate a check. You can see how much is involved. If you're able to, make sure that you take advantage of a payroll professional. I appreciate you joining me today. Thank you.